Hey, Donna Schwartz here, and welcome to this Facebook Live session on Thursday, September 1st, 2016. Let me get my camera angle a little better here. Okay, so this is Donna Schwartz. I'm from DonnaSchwartzMusic.com, the site to help you improve your music performance skills, improve your music technique. I focus mainly on saxophones and trumpet, but I also work a little bit with performance anxiety and how to make your practicing more effective and efficient. So check out my website, DonnaSchwartzMusic.com. And if you're just signing up right now or just checking out this Facebook Live session right now, please share this right now live. That would be awesome. And if you're checking it out in the replay, please share the replay. I had a bunch of really good questions this week that focused on mouthpieces. And it was mostly saxophone mouthpieces, but you know what? I'm going to deal with this in terms of brass a little bit too. A lot of us, when we first start out our instruments and we have somebody that we admire. We love the way that they play. We love their sound, right? Isn't that the first thing you're thinking about? When you find somebody, you know, you're going to a concert or you hear something on the radio, you're like, oh man, that sounds freaking awesome. And you want to sound like that. Well, you know what? Your mouthpiece, reed, even your horn has a lot to do with that. But you know what? The most important thing that has to do with that person's sound and eventually your sound is right up here. And those are people that know me, that subscribe to my website at DonnaSchwartzMusic.com, that know me personally, know that I always talk about how your sound, your tonal concept comes from up here. You know, there's stories, there's sayings that Charlie Parker sounded like Charlie Parker with whatever he played. There's stories that he'd be playing a different horn every week because he'd be hawking a horn to get some money. Then he'd be playing a different horn to the point when he was playing plastic horns and he still sounded like Charlie Parker. Why? Tonal concept. Hey, Bruno. So your tonal concept, your thoughts about mouthpiece have to start from your tonal concept. Well, what if you're a beginner? You know, what if you haven't played that much? What if you've only played a year, maybe even like, 5 years or something like that? Your tonal concept comes from up here. How do you build that? A lot of listening. Music is not a visual thing. Music is an aural, A-U-R-A-L. Music is an aural thing. Listening. So you've got to listen to all the styles of music that you like. You've got to listen to all the players that you like. For me, I love the sound of Dave Koz. I love the way he plays both alto and tenor, but particularly for me, his tenor sound, I love that. I think that's amazing. I love Richie Kanana's sound. Richie plays with Billy Joel's band. He played all those classic saxophone solos on the tenor back in the late 70s, early 80s. I played a few gigs with him, and I love his sound. I could listen to him all day. He's got a fantastic sound. Their tonal concept comes from players that they admire. Okay? I also love Sonny Rollins. I love his huge sound. It's amazing. Okay? I love Stanley Turrentine's playing. I don't necessarily love his sound though, but I love his playing. I love his style. He's being rhythmic. He's not playing a whole boatload of notes all the time. He's being rhythmic. So you listen to different people to get a certain sense of your tonal concept. On trumpet, I love Clifford Brown. I actually love Wynton Marsalis too. I love his sound too. I'm thinking Clifford Brown. Oh gosh, there's some other folks that the names are escaping me. Roy Hargrove is a great player. Nicholas Payton's another one. Love his sound. Really, really great. And Dave Douglas, also great. Love his ideas. Tom Harrell, love his ideas. Everything combines. All the different players you listen to combine into what you want to sound like. So that's the first step when you're looking at mouthpieces and mouthpiece reed combinations. Now, if you're a teacher like myself and you've got young students, they don't know any better unless they have that rich cultural background where their parents are playing whole bunches of types of music at home. I'm lucky right now. I'm teaching in a situation here in California. It's a music immersion program. All the kids, every single kid in this elementary school is getting music. And it's not just general music. They're getting exposed to playing all the percussion instruments. They're getting exposed to choosing guitar, ukulele, piano, keyboard, dance, which is very important, by the way, movement, and music are so important. I know my colleagues in Syosset, where I taught for many years, know that. They knew that for a long time. Movement, if you're not, you don't read rhythms, folks, you feel them, okay? You've got to be able to, feel those rhythms in order to understand it, to internalize it. So anyway, I'm involved in this music immersion program where every single kid's getting exposed to music, singing, dancing, acting. When they hit like 4th grade, they can also take a band type of instrument, which is one of the ones that I teach over there. That's awesome for them because they're at that young age where all, our brains are still forming, and they're forming very rapidly. That's the time to really get involved and get immersed in all different types of musics and sounds and stuff like that. If you're a teacher, and let's say you're a coach or a private teacher, you're teaching a certain instrument, try to include listening as much as you can, even if it's like for a couple of minutes at the beginning or the end of every lesson. Get that in that lesson so that someone, your students have that tonal concept in their head, because only they can form their own tonal concept. And again, like I said before, Charlie Parker sounded like Charlie Parker regardless of what he played. All right? You're going to sound like you regardless of what you played. Now, this is going into mouthpieces. A lot of times people, especially people who haven't played that much, they make the mistake, this is a mistake, they make the mistake of, researching their favorite player, finding out what their setup is, and then buying that, and then expecting to sound exactly like that. No, that's not going to work. Every single person's different, okay? Every single person's different in terms of their mouth shape, their lip shape, their oral cavity, their teeth, okay? How large their tongue is, okay? Their breathing, all right? Lung capacities. My lung capacity is very small. It just happens to be that way. Women that are smaller have smaller lung capacities than guys do. Even guys that are my height or an inch taller. It is what it is. I've got to adapt to that. Okay, those are the types of things that we have to take into account for encompassing our whole sense of tone and tonal concept. So don't make that mistake of running out to the store or typing on the internet and picking up, what your favorite player's setup is. It may not work for you. Okay, so then what do? Well, first thing, do a lot of listening. When you first get a horn, you'll get a stock mouthpiece. And I've mentioned this before in previous Facebook Lives and on a lot of the videos on my website, and also from my subscribers who get weekly tips from me. You get a stock mouthpiece. Brass, saxophone, clarinet, doesn't matter. Usually, not all the time, usually that stock mouthpiece is made for the horn that you're buying. So for example, if you buy, or if you're renting a Yamaha, you'll get a Yamaha stock mouthpiece, which by the way is friggin' awesome. Okay, those Yamaha stock mouthpieces, whether it's, brass or saxophones, they're great. They're designed for their horns. They work really well. They also work really well on other horns too, so that's an extra bonus. But sometimes those stock mouthpieces don't work, and that's mushy. Okay, that's where it gets a little bit mushy. Sometimes those stock mouthpieces don't work as well. So that's when, as a beginner, you'll want to get something similar to a stock mouthpiece. On a brass, on a trumpet, it's the equivalent of a Bach 7C. For a saxophone, getting an equivalent of like a Yamaha 4C or a Selmer C-Star. You could even go with the Myers, even though they're a step up, a Meyer 4 or 5C. Great mouthpieces. Notice saxophone players, I'm not mentioning getting a metal mouthpiece right away. I personally think that's a mistake. I think you need to wait a little bit. Metal mouthpieces require more control, more embouchure control, more breath support control, more control up here too, okay? So I would not go for a metal mouthpiece. As a trumpet player, I wouldn't go for a Bach 1.5C right away. You're going to be tanked. It's like blowing into a freaking toilet bowl or something like that. It's huge. You can't handle that. It's too much. So you want to stick with the basic stock mouthpieces, those general strengths or sizes. In terms of reeds, I encountered somebody the other day that he's starting out on a 3 reed on saxophone. I personally think that's too strong a strength to try out on. I think you should start on 2s. I know people that start their students on 1.5s. I disagree with that. I think that's too soft a strength. Those reeds will definitely break really easily. I think 2 is a good smart number to start on for a reed. What brand do I recommend? You know, I use Rigati Gold. I like those. I actually use Rigati Gold 2.5s for tenor and alto. But Van Doren's are awesome. Ricos are awesome. I usually recommend Rico Royals. They're even more awesome than the regular Ricos. They're a little bit stronger. So I usually recommend Rico Royal 2s to start with. And then you'll move around from there. Notice how I didn't say you'll move up, okay? Now you generally wouldn't want to go less than a 2, but there's this myth that, and this works for brass too, but there's this myth on saxophones that, oh, okay, with each year that I play, I'm going to bump it up, you know, like a half strength or a full strength until I'm playing on a 5, and then people will really respect me and, you know, I'm a professional. No. I rarely know people that play on a 5 strength reed, even a 4 strength reed. Now, some people do, which is awesome, which is great for them. That works for them. But the people that I speak to, I play rock music, I play blues, I play jazz. A lot of us tend to play 2.5s, 3 strength reeds. Some folks do play 3.5 and 4s. It depends on the type of mouthpiece that you have. Now I'm going to just divert for a second to the brass folks. For the brass folks, the thought is, okay, as a classical player, I got to get to a 1.5 C immediately because that's what, you know, the best players play. Now that's not necessarily true either. 1.5, like I said, requires a tremendous amount of air. You've got to build up to that. You've got to build up to that. So, you know, for brass players, a lot of people tend to play around a 5, maybe a 3. Okay, somewhere around there. And I'm being general with the numbers because a lot of folks play Yamaha mouthpieces as opposed to Bach, or they play Schilke mouthpieces. So you don't, you know, there's always this thing about peer pressure. You want to do what your neighbor's doing. You want to do what your friend's doing. You got to do what's right for you, okay? So getting back to the saxophone with the mouthpieces and the reeds, matching the reed strength with the mouthpiece. When you get that first stock mouthpiece, I'm recommending starting with the 2. As you build the strength of your embouchure, as you build the breath support that you need, as you build your tonal concept, your concept of sound, your hearing of pitches and stuff like that, then you're going to want to move up to a 2.5. It's usually after 6 months to a year, okay? After that point, you're now building up your range on your instrument, the written range of the instrument, the low B flat up to the high F or F sharp. You don't really need that extra F sharp key on your instrument. You can easily play that. Once you've reached that range comfortably on your stock mouthpiece and you're pretty much in tune, then you want to think to yourself, okay, am I playing efficiently, or am I blowing my brains out and using all this effort to try to get the highest notes? Are my low notes, is it air first and then sound, meaning that, you know, it's not connecting right away? Well, then maybe I need to look into a different mouthpiece. It could be a different baffle. You know, there's rollover baffles which basically don't have some of the high baffles have like a step in them. You see, it's like straight and then it kind of cuts off, or it's straight and then it kind of curves off. The rollover baffles don't have that. Okay, think Auto Link. Those are basically rollover baffles. My Theowana Gaia 7 mouthpiece on the tenor, it's a rollover baffle. I like that. I like that. And a lot of jazz players tend to play with rollover baffles. The stock mouthpieces are rollover baffles. What you're thinking about when you're going to the next mouthpiece is making your playing, getting your ideas across, your tonal sound across more efficiently and effectively, as opposed to you know, I want to use the same setup as Dave Koz or something like that. Now, the other consideration, and this is for the professionals, when you start getting well enough and good enough to perform professionally, you're going to find yourself in maybe a cover band situation, and you're competing with, and I'm going to say it like that, you're competing with amplification, with guitars, with basses, with drums. Everything's mic'd, and you're mic'd too. But sometimes, even though you're mic'd, you're not cutting through. And if you find that you're having that problem and all the mechanics are good, that's the key. All the mechanics are good and you're not cutting through, then you want to look into a mouthpiece that may be a little bit more open, You may want to look into a mouthpiece that has some kind of baffle to it that's going to help to, I'll say, accelerate the air, okay, help with the projection. At that point, you'll want to experiment with that. But, you know, a lot of guys that I know that play gigs, jazz gigs, even rock gigs, they don't need to resort to metal with high baffles. They play hard rubber mouthpieces and they project pretty damn well, I gotta say. Great players. In fact, if you look back in history, you know, to some of these iconic players on saxophone, like Cannonball Adderley, right? He played a Meyer 5, and he played either Rico number 2s or Lavaz mediums, okay? So, but he projected, okay? He didn't, the Meyers are hard rubber mouthpieces, not metal, okay? So, you know, think about those types of things. Someone had asked me, you know, can you mention some of the great players that, you know, didn't play on these super strong reeds? Well, you know what? Look at a modern player like Gerald Albright. Like, he's like a sax god. He's amazing, right? Well, one of his setups is a Beechler 8 with a Lavaz medium hard reed. It's not a super hard reed. It's medium hard. Okay, that works for him. But he also sometimes uses the Leger reeds, and he'll use a Leger 2. Or even, I read in one of the Woodwind and Brasswind magazines, he uses a Leger 1 3/4. Why? Why would he use something that's lower in strength? Because the thought process is, especially for rock players that need to project more, you want that reed to really vibrate a lot. And you're going to use your breath support to get that projection. You don't want to, you're playing 3 hours on a gig, you don't want your chops to just like implode because you're exhausted. See, the harder the strength of the reed, you're going to need more chop strength. You're going to need more embouchure strength. On a brass mouthpiece, the lower the number, I'll use Bach numbers, you go to a Bach 1.5, the more strength you're going to need in your muscles and the super power breath support in order to last, you know, throughout whatever playing situation you have. So a lot of rock players, we tend to use lower strength reeds so that the reed vibrates more. We get more of the reed vibrates. We get a fuller sound. We're using our breath support. It helps us to last longer through a gig. Now, that's not every single rock player. I know guys that do play on 3s and 4s on gigs on metal mouthpieces. They're using their chop strength, and that's fine too. In fact, one of my mentors had said when I first started taking lessons with him many years ago, he was using a 120 tip opening with I think Rico 4s, or no, Van Doren 4s or 5s. Holy crap, he had jaws of steel, okay? But he kept on saying to me, he's working too hard, he's working too hard. And then we were exploring mouthpieces and reeds together, you know? So the fallacy, the myth is that, you know, in order to be a professional, I need to be playing on a strength 4 or 5 reed. No, that's not the case. It depends on the genre of music you're playing. It depends on your individual makeup, okay, your embouchure strength, your breath support. It depends on the type of mouthpiece you have, the horn setup. It also depends on your tonal concept. That's the big thing with that. I really want to drive that point home because there's a lot of folks, music teachers who, you know, we teach band and stuff like that, and maybe saxophone isn't your instrument, or maybe woodwinds aren't, you're a brass player. Okay, that's what happens. You have to teach all the instruments. And maybe you were taught in music methods class that, okay, you know, start the kids out on X strength of reed and then quickly get them up to like a 3, and then with each year get them up to a higher, you know, strength. No, that is wrong. That is so wrong. Okay, you don't need to be an expert in a band, you know, in a high school band or, you know, public school band situation to know all the things about mouthpieces, but that is not the right approach for that. You want to use the right strength that your kid's going to be able to handle playing their horn within the written range really well and in tune. Okay, so the other thing I want to add to that too, I'm talking contemporary music. I'm not talking classical. A lot of classical players will use mouthpieces with smaller tip openings and higher strength reeds. You need the higher strength reed. You need that resistance in order to be able to get the full range of the horn happening with those smaller tip opening mouthpieces. That's just the way that works. So classical players, you'll find often will definitely be using at least 3s, if not 4s, on their mouthpieces, and they normally don't play metal mouthpieces. They'll play hard rubber mouthpieces. Metal does project more, but when you're in a classical situation, you need to have full control of your sound, and you don't want to stick out like a sore thumb. If you're in a community band, it's the same thing. You don't want to be sticking out like a sore thumb and playing a metal mouthpiece that's going to be like, just way too loud and not blending with a section. Okay, so I hope that was kind of a long-winded answer to that question. That person wanted me to give examples of like great players, who play softer reeds. And like I said, Gerald Albright is one of them. I mentioned Cannonball Adderley uses number 2s. Charlie Parker, in mid-career, later career, if he first started out on hard reeds, he went down to the softer reeds later on. It depends on your choice. Am I the authority on this? No, but I'm going on my experience of playing, my years of teaching playing, my mentors, their experience. The thing is, you've got to go with what works for you. I was reading something recently that Dave Koz had said, and he said, I found this mouthpiece reed combination. I like the way it sounds. It works. I'm sticking with it. Keep it simple, folks. Keep it simple. I know a lot of people, back in the day on trumpet, people would have garbage pailfuls of mouthpieces. And they'd use one mouthpiece for, for classical music, for like solos, playing concertos. They use another mouthpiece to play Strauss and Mahler. They use another mouthpiece for brass quintets. They use another mouthpiece to play jazz. They use another mouthpiece to play rock. That's confusing, okay? I don't know. I mean, if that works for you, that's great. But try to find the mouthpiece that's going to be the most versatile for you, whatever instrument you play. Number one, you're going to save a lot of money. But two, you're also dealing with the muscles around your mouth. And when you're going from mouthpiece to mouthpiece, you're making adjustments. And you want to kind of avoid all those variables. You want to be thinking about music. You don't want to be thinking about all the adjustments that you've got to make because you're on a different mouthpiece. My own opinion, okay, I know people are going to have their opinions, and absolutely feel free to comment. And, if you're going to comment, we're not going to be nasty, because I'm noticing people are, not on my stuff, but I'm noticing in other places people are getting really nasty. People have their own opinions. They have the right to their own opinions. Okay, so I hope I answered all the questions with regard to mouthpiece myths and fallacies and that kind of thing. And I hope for music teachers that are teaching, young saxophone players and young brass players, don't go off of these myths that, the higher the number strength reed, the better the kid's going to be. No. Or, go lower and lower and lower with the brass mouthpieces. That's going to make them better. No. Every person's different. Okay? So it's a little bit more complicated than that. We kind of have to do our homework and see what's working for our kids, and also for us, what's working for us as players. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this Facebook Live video. Check out my website, donnaschwartzmusic.com. Please share this replay. I'd appreciate it. Comment below. Good discussion is always important, right? Good discussion is always important. We always learn something from that. And with that, I bid you adieu. Take care. Have a great day.